Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
He's training you up. He wants you to follow the Dharma. There we go.
Hare.
Is that you? On the wall? Huh? In anticipation of Ramnavami, I decided it'd be nice to have some topics during this visit in relation to Ramayana and Ramchandra and so forth. And so here's a nice presentation on the Sarayu River. Just like in Vrindavan, the very sacred river Yamuna has its place, or when we visited Haridwar, the Ganga, and of course in Mayapur, the Ganga. Similarly, in Ayodhya, the sacred river of River Sarayu is a similar sacred place. We're going to hear something about it this morning. The origin of the Sarayu River has a source in Lake Manasa. Lake Manasa is in the Vadyuta mountain south of Kailash. So we know Kailash is way, way, way up. And the Sarayu River also has its source way, way, way up north. This lake. Now the painting is the river itself, and the river Sarayu is said to have issued from the left foot of Vishnu. Balaram visited the Sarayu River after killing the demon Bambalak. Pilgrimage by Lord Balaram. Of course, he did many wonderful things, but one of those wonderful things was he paid a visit the sacred Sarayu River. And similarly, when Lord Nityananda was on his pilgrimage, he visited the Sarayu River. There's a description, some of you are familiar with the formation of the Radhakund and Shyamakund. After Krishna had killed the Aristasura demon, the gopis told him, you killed the bull, and so don't come near us till you purified yourself. He said, he wasn't a bull, he was a demon. It was in the shape of a bull. And you killed him. So you have to purify yourself. And Krishna said, very well, what's sufficient? All the sacred rivers in the entire universe. You bathe in all those sacred rivers in the entire universe. And then you're purified. Krishna smiled and said, okay. And so he called the rivers personified from all over the universe. And they came and filled Shyamakund. First he made with his heel a big depression in the ground. And then the rivers filled that depression in the ground. So one of the rivers mentioned is personified Sarayu appeared to serve Krishna and to help fill Shyamakund. And those of you that like Lord Chaitanya, you know a little bit about Lord Chaitanya. The place where Lord Chaitanya is is one of the central island of the 9 islands of Navadvip. So Mayapur or Antartweep is at the center. And then there's 9 islands, and the 9 islands are made of rivers. They're flowing this way, that way, the other way, right in Sridham Mayapur or Navadvip Dham. And one of those rivers is the river Sarayu. So they river Sarayu flows right through Navadvip Dham. And the movement of these rivers makes the 9 islands, or Navadvipa. Sometimes, according to Bhakti Thakur wrote a book, one of his 100 books, was about Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. And in that book he writes, sometimes these rivers dry up by the Lord's desire. And when they dry up, he then, by his desire, they start to flow again. And sometimes it's not just the rivers dry up, but they flood. And all the islands, the whole surrounding area become flooded. And then again, the water recedes and they become visible. He writes, if a devotee has an acute desire in his heart, all the islands and rivers will be visible. By devotion, the Dham is sometimes visible in dreams, meditation, or to the naked eye. So sacred places have a mystery surrounding them. Navadvip is one of them. In Ayodhya, the dynasty of Ikshvaku and down and down and down, the Raghu dynasty, the capital city of Ayodhya is situated on the bank of the river Sarayu. I particularly like the fact that the Vivaswan had, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, Vivaswan had a son, and his son was Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. Vaivasvata Manu had a son. That son was named Ikshvaku. So Vaivasvata Manu established Ayodhya and sent his son from the sun dynasty, sun planet, to the earthly realm to establish the sun dynasty, the solar dynasty, the Surya dynasty. And from that place, Ayodhya, it continued for many generations. And Ramchandra appeared in that dynasty. So the place, Ayodhya, was established along the bank of the river Sarayu. It flowed at half a yojana from Ayodhya and was united with the Ganga. So it's a tributary that then flowed together with the Ganga. But Ayodhya itself was along the bank of the Sarayu. We're going to cover some pastimes. That's a little bit of the history. Then there's pastimes connected with Sarayu River. And the very, very beginning, we'll spend some time with this one. Dasarath had no sons, and he desired very much to have sons. So he received advice from the Brahmins how that would be possible. And one of the things that made it possible was he performed a sacrificial place in the sacrificial arena. And there's many other details found in the environment. But the place was by the side of the surrounded with this sacred river. Later, after Ramchandra was born and he's now 12 years of age, Vishwamitra Muni requested the 2 boys to come with him to kill demons. And on the way, he gave them mantras for their protection, etc., along the bank of the river Sarayu. And then we'll hear the greatly distressed, and all of this is very much connected with the river Sarayu. And then finally, their disappearance. Lakshman and all the Ayodhya residents disappeared into the river Sarayu, the grand exit. So here's the little history, some nice paintings. There was no son. There are some wives, but no son. And so he, Dasarath, consulted the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas gave him the following advice, Vashishta in particular. Not long ago, I heard this told by Sanat Kumar, the immortal sage who roams the universe. A divine arrangement is being worked by the gods for your everlasting benefit. So Vashishta is powerful, and the priest of the family, royal family. So then Dasarath announces, I've been considering the performance of a horse sacrifice for the pleasure of the gods and Vishnu. Turning to Vashishta, we shall immediately prepare the ground on the banks of the Sarayu. You will certainly get a son by this method Vashishta is describing. So Rishishringa was the person to perform the sacrifice. There's details and details of how Rishishringa made his way there. Very interesting intrigue. The priests of Ayodhya set about preparing for the sacrifice. The horse released for the sacrifice came back to Ayodhya without an incident at the end of 1 year. So this is 1 year's delay, and then here's the big sacrifice. So Vashishta is the head priest, and he's organizing the other brahmanas, instructing them how to have the sacrificial arena built. And so it was established by the side of the river Sarayu. The king sat surrounded by brahmins who consecrated him for the sacrifice. He and his wives made offerings into the fires and joined in the chanting of prayers. So at the bottom, that's situated around the sacrificial fire, the king and his wives, at least 3 of them. And then Lord Vishnu appears in their presence. The celestial smoke from the offerings, sanctified by Vedic mantras, rose toward the skies and was received by the gods. The rituals were almost over. From the sacrificial fire, a shining and beautiful personality appeared. Celebrated event. So he's going to hand payasam to the king. O king, know me to be a messenger of the Lord of all created beings, Vishnu. By worshipping the gods and sacrifice, you have received this reward. Now take this ambrosia prepared by the gods, which will bestow upon you the offspring you desire. Give it to your wives, and through them you will soon secure 4 celebrated sons. That's a little tricky because there's 3 wives and 4 sons. What to do? Dasarath was smart, he knew what to do. The king gave half to Kaushalya, who leaves the other half. He gave the other half to Kaikeyi, who was especially dear to him. Both of these wives gave a part of their share to the king's 3rd wife, Sumitra. This evening at the temple, we're going to hear about Sumitra. She's very special. They felt within themselves the presence of powerful offspring. Dasarath at last attained his desired object. So 1 son, 1 son, and 2 sons. Sumitra, the mother of the 2 sons. And all of this is along river Sarayu because it's a sacred place, it's auspicious, more than auspicious, it's a transcendental place for this important event, the appearance of the personality of Godhead and his three brothers. So time passed, the boys were born and many events occurred, and Vishwamitra Muni made a visit to Ayodhya. And because the king, Dasarath, is a noble, cultured Vaishnava, he immediately rose from his royal throne and offered all respect to Vishwamitra Muni and praised him and honored him and did all the formalities that one is supposed to do. And he volunteered, whatever it is that has brought you here, the answer is yes. Whatever it is that you want, it's yours. I said, very good, thank you. Here's what I want. I want your two sons to come with me to kill a demon. Oh no, they're too young and this and that, and he was backtracking on his word. Don't cross Vishwamitra Muni. He was becoming angry. And as his mood, like Lord Shiva, easily pleased, easily angered, and when he gets angry, you better watch out. So it was, tell him what your final word is. And it was the king understood this isn't ordinary. So he turned to Vishishta, and Vishishta said, you better do what he wants. And he has the best interest of you and your sons in mind, so don't worry, everything will be all right. Trusting Vishishta, attached to his two sons, he said, all right. And so they set off. And as they were walking, this is a very important detail, for 12 miles, the two boys, 12-year-old boys said nothing. What 12-year-old boys say nothing? And they're brothers, they're going to say something, but they, in the presence of Vishwamitra, they said nothing. Walking along the bank of the river Sarayu. And they reached a certain place, and Vishwamitra Muni commented, your demeanor, your culture, your conduct in the presence of a great sage is very commendable. We have a great task ahead of us. We're going to face a terrible demon, so you're going to need mantras, both for attack and for protection. So Vishwamitra gave them mantras along the bank of the river Sarayu. I will now tell you the mystical mantras known as Bhava and Ati Bhava. These hymns will confer upon you freedom from all fatigue and fever. Indeed, they will release you from hunger and thirst, and will even prevent decrepitude, like you won't get old. While you mutter these sacred spells, none on earth will be your equal in battle, intellectual judgment, or argument. How'd you like those mantras? And the demigods are showering flowers upon Vishwamitra Muni as they're walking along the banks of the river Sarayu. So the two brothers, Lakshman and Ram, gladly accepted the mantras and were happy to have Vishwamitra as their mantra guru. That night, they rested on the bank of the Sarayu, and it was very pleasant, cool breeze, etc. The sage, having bestowed blessings upon the boys, next morning led the way as the sun rose up upon another cloudless day. Soon they came to the river Ganges, where it met the Sarayu. So there's convergence of these two rivers at this next place. So those are two topics in relation to the river Sarayu. And then comes the third, when you know the whole story, so I don't need to repeat the whole story, but Dasarath had some anxiety, the super soul within his heart placed him in some anxiety. Anything at any time could happen to me. The kingdom should be passed on to my eldest son. So I want to arrange a major festival and inaugurate my son as the Prince Regent, the next king of Ayodhya. So he made this announcement, he had the ministers make all the arrangements, etc., etc., etc. And as the festivities were getting ready, Mantra, you know the story, Mantra saw all the commotion. She asked the people, what's all this commotion? And when she was told, she shrieked loudly, no. And then she went and informed Kaikeyi, because Mantra was the assistant, maidservant of Kaikeyi, and told Kaikeyi the news, and Kaikeyi was, oh, how wonderful, because he loved Ram. You know the whole story. And Mantra threw a fit. What? You foolish woman, and she took liberties of saying very critical things of Kaikeyi. Do you understand what this means? And sowing seeds of doubt and just so forth and so on. While your two sons, well, no, not your two sons, while Bharata and Lakshmana are not here, why is this going on? Bharata and Kshatriya, excuse me, why they're not here? Why is this going on now? Your son will be at risk. So, sowing the seeds, and then what to do. Kaikeyi was soft and belligerent. Nice combination. So then, I'll remind you of how you foolish woman, I'll remind you how, remember long ago you saved your Dasarath's life, and he promised you 2 boons, and you said, I don't need anything now, I'll ask you later. Remember that? Now is the time to ask. And the 2 boons, what are they? Ram not become king, and you go to the forest for 14 years, and instead your son will become the king. Those are the 2 boons. You know the story? Of course. You know the story? How am I doing? Okay? Okay, all right. And then what happened? Well, that's the next scene. Here's Kaikeyi holding up 2 fingers, reminding Dasarath of the promise that he made long ago when she saved his life. Realizing that long past deed to be the cause of his present suffering, Dasarath related it to Kaushalya and told her the bad news, or the news, good news, bad news. And the plan was then informed by Kaikeyi to Ram and Lakshmana that you're banned. See you later, 14 years later. And Bharata will become the next king. So poor Dasarath, because he keeps his word. Noble personalities don't give their word and then break their word. Other people don't mind doing that, but he was not like that. So he kept his word. It brought the end of his life, but he kept his word. So here's the scene where Kaikeyi has invited Ram to come and to inform Ram of the good news. Guess what? You're not going to become the king, you're going to the forest for 14 years. Your father promised, and the father is devastated. By sending Ram away, I have indeed cut down a mango grove, just as it was about to bear fruit. Now I am tasting the bitter fruit of Palasha tree. And then he, Dasarath, remembers an event that happened long ago. A long time ago as a youth, before we were married, I went to the forest to hunt. It was the rainy season. The rivers were swollen. Going out of at night on my chariot, I made my way to the Sarayu. I waited there in the darkness by the river bank for a buffalo or an elephant to come by, and he heard the sound of the drinking of water. He thought it was a wild animal. Thinking that sound to be the sound of an animal drinking, I took out an arrow and released it. In distinct and pain-filled tones, I heard the following cry: how has this weapon fallen on a harmless ascetic like myself? I am a simple seer, Rishi, who has forsworn violence and lives only on fruits and roots. Oh, I am killed. The king heard the voice, and he came before this Rishi and felt terrible. He explained, I came here to fetch water from my blind parents even now as I lie dying. My poor father must be wondering where I am, but what can he do? And he left his body. Dying, he left his body. So the king, Dasarath, goes on telling the story. He went to the parents. Reaching the hermitage of his parents, I said, O holy sage, I am not your son, but a prince named Dasarath. On hearing your son collecting water, I mistook him for a beast drinking. I released a deadly arrow and killed the boy. His blind father is very bitter. He's dependent upon his son. He asked me to take him to the place where his son lay, speaking to his son. Why are you lying here upon the ground? Please speak to us, my son. How will I be able to support your old mother? The old painting. The ascetic and his wife offered sanctified water to their dead son with mantras and prayers. He then said to me, just as I am dying now in the agony of separation from my son, so in the future shall you die in the grief of separation from your son. He's narrating all of this. The king then said to his wife, that curse uttered so long ago by the sage is now coming to pass. I shall soon die of grief. So he's lying in his deathbed. And sure enough, that's how he left this world. Stricken with the intolerable pain of separation, the great emperor gave up his life during the night and ascended to the highest abode of the Supreme Lord. Another very old painting. And when he, at the cremation ground on the bank of the Sarayu, the priest prepared a pyre with various types of fragrant wood. That's a lot of wood to place the body on. but the sages made all this arrangement by the bank of the river Sarayu. On the 13th day, Bharata and Shatrughna returned to the cremation ground. They took their father's ashes and placed them in the sacred Sarayu. Vashishta pointed to the king's remains as he spoke. The king has achieved the perfection of life and will not take another birth. So now we know exactly where Darshan went. And then that's the third of the 4 items about the history of the past times with Ram and the river Sarayu. Once in Ayodhya, after Ram ruled for long, long thousands of years, Ram was visited by an unusual ascetic. That's that fellow by the door. "O Emperor, no one should hear the words that pass between us. If anyone should interrupt us, then they must be killed by you." Pretty heavy. So Ram told Lakshman, guard the door. Don't let anybody in. And then the person that came to speak to him in private, "You should know that I am death. Brahma has asked me to come here and inform you that the time allotted for your earthly pastimes is drawing to a close. You have achieved all that you desired to achieve now. If it so pleases you, you may return to your own eternal abode." There's a very similar scene, different, but a very similar scene in the Krishna's departure. Krishna's departure was spoken to him by Lord Brahma. And the scene was in Dwarka. There was a big yajna performed by Krishna's father, Vasudeva, and many sages and this and that. And the demigods had come to receive their offerings, and one of the demigods that had come was Lord Brahma. Brahma requested a private discussion with Krishna. So they had a private discussion. And he said something different, but quite similar. "Thank you very much. We appealed to you long, long ago that you appear in this world and rid the world of the demoniac kings. Now all of that is accomplished. So if you so desire, you may return to your abode." And so that was the signal that Krishna's pastimes were over, and then the events leading to Krishna's departure occurred, which is what's going to happen here. But this is a messenger from Brahma indicating the bell rang, time's up, time to return. The great mystic Durvasa Muni came to the city, and he found Lakshmana guarding Ramchandra's door. And Lakshmana said, "Sorry, Durvasa Muni, but you can't see Ram right now. He is having a discussion with a private guest. Could you please wait? And then I'll let you in." And Durvasa Muni doesn't like no for an answer, or wait for an answer. "I will not be kept waiting. Go at once, O son of Sumitra, and inform Ram of my presence. Otherwise, know that I shall curse you, your brothers, this territory, and all your descendants. Indeed, my anger is already difficult to contain." Poor Lakshman. So Lakshman had to violate the instruction of Ram. Lakshman entered the room where he saw Ram speaking with death. Ram had Durvasa seated comfortably in the palace, and he personally served him with varieties of excellent food. Then Lakshmana said to Ram, I must now die, dear brother, for that was the promise you made to death. Punish me in accord with your word to that deity. Death personified. Ram looked at Lakshman. I leave you, O son of Sumitra. Do not let not virtue suffer. Desertion and slaying are considered equal to the wise. Therefore, do I abandon you today. Heavy. Heavy. Now it's Leela. You can feel a little bit lighter than heavy. Leela, there's a very nice section where Hanuman is speaking. And Hanuman says, Lakshman and Sita are inseparable from Ram. There's no possibility of Ram abandoning Lakshman or Ram abandoning Sita. It's just not possible. They're inseparable. But there is. So it's a Leela. And in this Leela, Ram is banishing Lakshman. Reaching the banks of the Sarayu, he sat down in meditation, preparing to observe the Praya vow of fasting till death. With his eyes half closed, Lakshmana suspended his breathing and entered a deep trance. He sat absorbed in thought of the Supreme. Thus it appeared to all men that Lakshmana had died. And there's a similar pastime where Balaram leaves this world in a very, very fascinating way. A form of Anantashesha appears from his mouth, and Anantashesha carries him to the spiritual world. Whew. Put that in some high-tech film or something. Ram said, I shall confer the kingdom on Bharata. This very day I will follow the path taken by Lakshmana. Ram traveled upriver to the point where it joined the Ganges, and then went along the course of that holy river until he reached the foot of the mountain from where it emanated. Within the sight of all and being praised by the gods, Ram and his two brothers, Bharata and Shatrughna, attained the Vaikuntha planet where Lord Ram eternally resides. Every creature present, absorbed in thoughts of Ram, then gave up their mortal bodies. His pastimes were completed. So those are at the end. There's Ramachandra entering into the river Sarayu and all the associates of the Lord that traveled with him. The ladies in Ayodhya, where did they go? This is now not from Ramayana, it's taken from Shivarama Maharaj Venu Gita. With a vow to attain the Lord of their hearts, the lovely women of Ayodhya performed severe austerities on the bank of the Sarayu River until a voice from the sky said, in the forest by the Yamuna shore, your desires shall be fulfilled, for now be at peace. So they'll be again united with Krishna in a subsequent incarnation. So here's a very nice verse of Pavastuti. This is found in 5th Canto Bhagavatam. 5th Canto Bhagavatam, this section is Vedic cosmology, where it says, 5th Canto Bhagavatam, these are the other great rivers that are very prominent, and Sarayu is mentioned. The inhabitants of Bharatvarsha are purified because they always remember these rivers. Sometimes they chant the names of these rivers as mantras, and sometimes they go directly to the rivers to touch them. and bathe in them. Thus the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha become purified. So it's not just a nice river. It sanctifies the sages. All these rivers are transcendental. Therefore, one can be purified by remembering them, touching them, or bathing in them. There's a very nice example of this where the devotees were traveling with Srila Prabhupada and visiting some of the places in Mayapur. He was taking them here and there. And it was very hot in a certain season, very, very, very hot in Mayapur. So they requested Prabhupada, they said, okay, if we can take bath and swim in the Ganges. And Prabhupada said, why not? So with that word, they all, nice hulking American kids, young men, got into vruksha and started taking bath, and Prabhupada, very much to their surprise, did the same thing. He took off his kurta and took sacred bath in the sacred river, knowing very well that this is purification. Here's some photos. We paid a visit to Ayodhya. Here's one of the main structures in Ayodhya. Inside these gates, we're going to pass through that central gate there. There's a temple. You see the devotees walking on the other side. And on the other side, here's where the temple is. This is the temple that was there when we visited, and there's the deities of Ram, Lakshmana, and Sita. And as you well know, Modi established this other temple with a very nice deity of Lord Ramachandra in honor of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, not far from the banks of the river Sarayu. There's the deity not dressed. Here's the deity dressed. So that's our little discussion, part one. Some meditations in preparing ourselves for Ramnavami. And so there's so many nice places and pastimes and personalities and painful even more in the course of this visit. So I would know, some of you, younger generation people, seem to like Ramayana. You like Ramayana? Yeah. What's your favorite version of Ramayana? Huh? Who's the author of the book? Srila Prabhupada. There's a version that you might like, Krishna Dharma. He's an ISKCON devotee. He lives in London, and he's a good writer. And he's very, very true to Valmiki Ramayana. He doesn't deviate. He doesn't, it's not all the details, but the main message and many of the details is very accurate. It's very readable. Krishna Dharma. Krishna Dharma. Similarly, he wrote a summary of Mahabharata. It's same all the glories I just mentioned. Really good, he's a good writer. And a little sharing. From time to time I have questions, this or that, or something from Ramayana or from Mahabharata. And he's really quick. And if he doesn't know, he'll say, I don't know. But most of the time he has nice answers. Very knowledgeable. Very authentic personality. Krishna Dharma. Okay, any comments or questions? River Sarayu or whatever you like. Ramchandra, please. Yes. Yes.
Good morning, like when Lord Ram, one of his pastimes.
Yes, sir.
When Lord Ram, one of his pastimes, he took the entire residence of Ayodhya to Vaikuntha. But when in Krishna Leela, he went like as if no one could even one day of Uddhava was able to see. So this is some contrasting from Lord Ram and Lord Krishna's pastimes.
What's the difference?
Difference is.
What's your question?
The question is, this is just a common knowledge, just observer.
Okay, but he has a rasa. He has a loving relationship with Uddhava.
Yeah.
So Krishna had his purposes in leaving Uddhava behind. The service that he gave him, the service was go to Narayana Rishi, and I didn't give my association to them when I was present, so you go on my behalf. And it's as good as I'm going because you're going on my behalf. But it's a leela. And it's, it's a relationship of love in separation.
Just
That's it.
comparison, yeah.
Love and separation. It's very special with a very special devotee. Intimate. Krishna could have done any n number of things, but he, love and separation, gave him some service. And then he met Vidura, some other service. Special Krishna Leela.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. You shared about this mood of separation for Darshan.
Yes.
And similarly, the Ayodhya citizens also had a mood of separation.
Yes. Yes.
So, in the mood of separation, I read the word remorse, sad.
Yes. Karuna rasa.
Yeah. So there's still below that, although externally there's sadness and depression, whatever, but internally there's the connection, ecstasy.
Well, let's do this. There's primary rasas and there's secondary rasas. And Karuna rasa is one of the secondary rasas. So in Ramayana, Ramchandra was giving the residents, his father included, and the residents of Ayodhya included, in experiencing an elevation, a accentuating or spiking of their mood of love in the mood of separation. But the mood of separation was a sadness. There's details and details and details discussed in Rupa Goswami's writings, and here's one of those details. Each of the secondary rasas has a presiding deity. Ramachandra is the presiding deity of Karuna rasa. So Ramachandra is giving the opportunity for increased love. Because love and separation increases or intensifies that love. But it's in a mood that looked like it's really sad. In one translation of Ramayana that I have read, the word sorrow was used. It's a translation of Karuna rasa. Sad, sorrow, melancholy, worse, death, for Darshan. Love and separation to that degree.
So, Guru Maharaj, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, and when we see the pastimes of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, there's a lot of pain, suffering, sadness.
They're different.
They're different?
Yeah. One is material, the other is spiritual. The spiritual intensifies love, and material it's all about me.
Yeah. So we need to learn a lesson here
Yeah.
that this place is not a place of happiness.
Well, that's Bhagavad Gita. The lesson is in Bhagavad Gita. The lesson here is something else.
Okay. The other question I had, you mentioned when Lord Ram and Lakshman were traveling with Vashishta, Vishwamitra,
Excuse me.
for 12 miles, they didn't say a word.
Yeah, it's nice.
12. Yeah.
Out of respect.
Yeah. So,
You speak when spoken to. That's respect.
okay. So when we are doing similar service to
It depends. It depends.
yeah.
The circumstances aren't always the same.
Okay.
These are boys with a great sage, and they're honoring him by silence. So we may say something that doesn't mean we're
Yeah.
disrespecting a great personality.
Yeah. But we also hear from the scriptures that when we are in the association of a sadhu, that we need to take benefit from that, his presence, to ask him something that will enlighten us.
There's details and details and details and circumstances.
This is
Yes.
that
So the
process.
right circumstance, you
Yeah.
ask. In this particular circumstance,
Just a comment, this question that was asked earlier, Lord Ram did a similar thing in relation to Hanuman. He requested Hanuman to stay back and
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Well, no, we're right in front of you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for nice talk. I have a curiosity question.
Curiosity question.
You mentioned that Sarayu is a tributary of all the Ganges. Is she a different personality or
Yeah.
is an expansion of
Different.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, Lord Krishna took all Yadavas back
Well,
to.
an expansion, excuse me, I'm just still dwelling on it. An expansion is a different personality. An expansion isn't the same personality, an expansion is a different personality. Two personalities. The source and the expansion from the source. Two personalities. There's a connection. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Lord Krishna took all Yadavas back to Godhead, or with him, and Lord Ramchandra took all Ayodhya Vasis to Ayodhya planet. All of them were living entities or Nitya Siddha who came to perform the pastime.
Well, two things. One, I'm just capturing your focused attention. It's not, this is the second time it was said, that Krishna did not, I'm contradicting the statement, Krishna did not take all the residents of Ayodhya with him. Here's the explanation given. There are categories of personalities who were Krishna's associates in Dwarka. Krishna sent his chariot driver, what's the name of Krishna's chariot driver?
Daruka.
Daruka. Krishna sent Daruka back to Dwarka to inform those personalities who were still in Dwarka to leave. And the queens in particular should be accompanied by Arjuna back to Mathura so they would be protected. Because the whole city of Dwarka is going to be submerged underwater after I depart. So quickly go. So he gave him some service as well as Uddhava. Second, the description goes like this. Those soldiers that were immolation pastime. Some were from this source, some were from that source, some were from the other source. Some were demigods who Krishna had requested take birth on earth and assist me in my pastimes. Those demigods went back to their abodes in the demigod realm. There were expansions of the demigods. They weren't, because demigods didn't hang up a sign saying, sorry, I'm gone for 125 years, check back with me later. The expansions, partial angsas of the demigods returned to their position in the heavenly realm. That's one. Two, some descended directly from the spirit. This is from our acharyas. Some directly descended from the spiritual world. They went back to the spiritual world. Three, some entered into the aprakat lila of Dwarka, where eternally, in the aprakat manifestation of Dwarka, they're eternally engaging in activities and pastimes. So that's 4 different categories. I'm just commenting on Krishna sent everybody back to the spiritual world when he departed. It's not an accurate statement. No, that wasn't the main part of your question. The main part of your question, say it again so I get it right. The main part of your question was?
The question was the all Ayodhya Vasis, people who went with Lord Ramchandra. They were all living entities who were in the service of Lord Ramchandra.
Yeah, eternally.
Okay.
That's my understanding. That there's no commentary by our acharyas that there were different destinations of those that followed Ramachandra.
Okay.
There may have been, but there's no commentary to indicate that. So they returned to their spiritual origin because they came with Lord Ramachandra to participate with him.
Okay.
Now, similar, one might guess that when Lord Vishnu agreed to appear to deal with Ravana, that the demigods were to take birth on earth, but they had a different arrangement through propagating offspring and so forth and so on. So, but those were largely Vanaras and other than in the human form. So it gets a little, subtle. The Vanaras came with Ramachandra when Ramachandra came and put the Pushpaka Vimana to return to Ayodhya and then became emperor and so on. So that's a detailed, exactly their destination, ultimate destination. I can't say. But our acharyas, I can repeat what our acharyas have indicated. Yes.
So Maharaj, if we have time, I have 1 or 2 more questions.
1 or 2.
Yeah. One.
Then one at a time.
Yeah. It arose from his question that when Nitya Siddha or those souls that are coming from the spiritual world, when they take birth on the planet Earth, these Nitya Siddhas, these liberated souls, they go through the same pain and suffering of being in the mother's womb, just like we do, or they are exempt from that? Because they are coming from the spiritual world to participate.
And one who takes birth commonly has that procedure. Now, if you're Lord Brahma, then you have a different way of feeling. But commonly, yes. Now, the suffering of the living entity for a transcendentalist, a Nitya Siddha, is not the same as the suffering as a Nitya Baddha. The experience is the same, but the suffering is in the mind.
I see.
And senses, and they're transcendental. Nitya Siddhas are transcendental. But they do the same procedure and thus the same discomfort. But they don't feel it the same way, they don't experience it the same way. Why are you asking that question? Just curious.
Curious and knowledge both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your second question.
The second service, at the mature stage of devotional service, our eternal identity is revealed to us. And so the devotees of Lord Krishna, my question is, devotees of Lord Krishna who is doing devotional service to Lord Krishna, then if they came from the spiritual universe, let's say some other planets, Ayodhya or Vaikuntha, then they go back to those planets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's time to end. And my memory says I'm being asked to perform arti. Yeah, I know where the deities are too. So if it's okay, I'm gonna get up and we'll invite you all, we'll go over to where the deities are. And our hostess has suggested that I perform arti for the deities.
Krishna. ఇటు నుంచి అట్లా ఫస్ట్ ఇటు నుంచి ఆర్తి చేస్తాను ఎదురు ఆయన ఎదురు కొంచెం లేకపోతే ఇటు వచ్చి ఆయన అక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తుంటారు ఆయన చేసి పూజ మొత్తం ఓకే ఉన్నాయి భజన అయిపోయాక తెప్పిద్దాంలే లేకపోతే అక్కడ టేబుల్ ఉంది మాతాజీ ఒక్క తీసేయండి మీ ఇష్టం. హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ హరే सॉरी सॉरी उधर चले आ हरे
Krishna Krishna Hare
His divine grace is the Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada. Nitya Lila Krishna Om Paramahamsa Parividagacharya Astatara Satasi Simad His divine grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Viskan founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki James Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ittai Gaur Premanandi. Glories to the assembled glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guru.
Either you power and filter, or I can this sprinkle of yeah. He is very particular. Yeah, so otherwise just take it.
I got it. Normally in temple we do that.
No, not now. After Heartful. Okay. I'll give this. You do sastang. Yeah, that's good job.
Itu swami.
What are you trying to do?
Live lo capture. Sorry. Live lo capture. Da, Krishna.
Interesting.
That's what. అటు వెళ్ళినట్టున్నాడు
No, this is good enough.
Yeah, what is the daily question? Today I was from carrot and gift. Almost 8 months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whatever you do for Ramana, I get it. Like if yoga, maybe not. I don't know. I'm confused. Before, I think after Monday, I don't remember. Yeah. Sleepy, hungry. Hey, where is this?
Indian, where is Maharashtra?
But I have your number, I'll call your number and make sure that that's the phone I'm holding. No, but I'm holding the phone. Call me. I already saw the phone, I'm holding it in my hand. Oh, I see.
Okay, I already gave it to Manu. You have to pay $80 for the bag. So then by that time, you will one of the four options that you will have that option still, which is the most that's the least I think I read the article they're doing it because they may want to slash the fares and then
Especially considering that you can only carry your one bag, don't carry your carry bag. You just pick up one bag or something, that's the only thing that's there. So that's the cheapest one. I generally find the oil is also like